their name recognition in an even year election. I just think of all the material I got during those cycles.
Michael, 7 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, staff was at Charter Commission. The reason for that, please?
Mr. Mayor and members, requested presentation from the Charter Commission. I was in attendance. I don't normally attend all the Charter Commission meetings, but I was there to evaluate our intern. Our intern had presented some of the additional material on e-poll books, so I was there and offered a couple of comments on e-poll books, not on even year elections. But so no, our staff, we obviously have to supply the staff and administrative support as well as the city attorney to the Charter Commission. So I know John had a couple of comments there too. The other item that we needed to do tonight, and John, I believe, was prepared to speak to it, was just that to Councilmember Hintermeyer's question about what the ballot will read and what it will say. John had also talked to the commission about the role of staff, and obviously we cannot advocate for or against. We can only provide information, and then John was going to provide some guidance, I think, as well to the Charter Commission members as well as council members about what we can do or not do with the ballot question. So that's another component that he was going to provide an overview on.
Are you ready to report on that right now, John?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, tonight I was actually in the process of preparing a memo regarding what is acceptable with respect to city resources in advocating or not advocating for the position on even or odd year elections, and what would be considered advocacy and just providing factual information. And I have not finished that memo yet, but I was going to distribute that to staff and to elected officials and commission members within the week. So this kind of came up suddenly. So.
Okay. And then one final question, since we're talking about the ballot itself. The decision on the wording of the ballot comes from the council, staff, or the Charter Commission?
Mr. Mayor, that's a great question. The wording of the ballot is actually dictated by statute guiding charters. I prepared a draft ballot based upon the statute. You'll find that on page 125 of your packet. The first line, it says, "Shall the below described amendment to section 4.01 of the Charter of the City of Moorhead be adopted," comes right from state statute. That's it actually requires the use of that language, and then it actually requires 2 yes or no boxes that you check, and then all I did was simply insert in the proposed amendment by the Charter Commission. And so basically tonight the council would review the ballot. If you feel that is sufficient, then you direct the clerk to put it on the next election. The Minnesota Supreme Court has said that the only thing that a city council can do is review the constitutionality of a proposed amendment to the charter, and this is clearly a policy political question as represented by the discussion tonight, and it doesn't raise any constitutional questions because you can have even year elections or you can have odd year elections. So,
Steve.
I agree with Councilmember Elmer and Councilmember Hintermeyer that I don't think you can understate the importance of having what I would consider a clean election where you have local issues. When they say the politics is local, that is really the policies that affect the taxpayers closest to home really are established with this council and have a direct impact on our residents. And I would find it disheartening if staff was there trying to push an issue one way or another, especially when this council voted 7-1 that in favor of not going to an even election and staying with odd years. So it would be disheartening for me for staff to say, well, we don't agree with council, so we're going to take another route.
And I think we heard that wasn't what happened. Mike Hewlett.
It was mentioned a few minutes ago that I was at that meeting. I would like to make it clear for the record that I was at that meeting for a different subject. And likewise, knowing that we had resoundingly voted as a council against going from odd to even year elections, was really surprised to see rather quickly the Charter Commission vote on a 6-2 or something like that to put this on the ballot. I, too, was very surprised to see that. I'm not going to repeat all the arguments because we discussed it here at length before. Some of the arguments have been presented now, but there are compelling reasons for us to keep our elections on odd years, and that's the way we've voted.
Mark Hintermeyer. I'm sorry, Mark Altenberg.
Thank
They
you,
look
Mr.
the
Mayor.
same.
And I anticipated